This is Dream Power Radio, the place where your dreams turn into reality. Here is your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Hello, and welcome to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, certified dream life coach, Debbie Spector-Weissman. This is a place where we talk about dreams, both daytime and nighttime dreams. Now you can use them to make the internal shift to a life you love and rediscover the truth of who you really are. Coaches like me use a lot of words when dealing with self-improvement. Words like empowerment, self-actualization, transformation, entrainment. But when it comes to creating the mindset to go after what you really want out of life, best word I can think of is manifestation. There was a time in my life when I believed it was impossible to manifest anything, that life was predetermined, and we had to sort of go with the flow with what came before us. Well, that got me a life that was perfectly livable, but inside, I felt it was somewhat incomplete. And it wasn't until I realized that I could manifest what I desired, what my guest today calls intentional manifestation, that I truly started to live my dream life. So, manifestation works. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as saying, I want this, and have it show up in your life the next day. So, how do we manifest what we desire? We're going to discuss that with manifesting coach, speaker, and author Greg Kuhn. For over 2 decades, Greg's been helping others create their own dream lives in such areas as health, wealth, relationship, and so much more. Greg's most recent book is called A Handbook for Those Already Born: How to Manifest Versions of Reality. So let's hear what he has to say. Welcome to Dream Power Radio, Greg.
Thank you very much, Debbie. It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, it is my pleasure because it's such a great subject to talk about. Oh, Greg, you call yourself the law of attraction science guy. So do you believe the law of attraction is the best way to manifest what you want?
Well, I will say this, Debbie. I would imagine you and I, and anybody who's listening to this, we are not the type of people who are okay with life happening to us, especially in those most important parts of our lives. You know, those hard to reach areas: health, wealth, love, relationships, career, those parts of our lives that are just so integral to human fulfillment. We work hard on those parts of our lives. And it would not surprise me at all if everybody listening to this broadcast would consider themselves a student of the law of attraction. I certainly wouldn't say it's out of line to label me that way as well. And we work hard on these parts of our lives. We give our best effort. We seek new information. Sometimes, as we know, unfortunately, however, we're let down too often. And when it comes to those hard to reach areas, I don't know about you, Debbie, I have never had any success with pretending that I don't desire my life to be the way that I really want it to be.
This is so true. Although I have to say, quite honestly, there were many years when I just didn't even think that it was possible to be any different. I'd call myself the ultimate fatalist, or I did at one point in my life. So tell me, manifestation is great when you know what you want. But what if that you kind of have a feeling you're missing something in your life, but you don't know, you're not quite sure what it is? How do you go about figuring out what to do next?
Most people that find their way to me are encountering a part of their life that, as we mentioned, is very important to them, important enough that they're willing to do something about it, important enough that they have been doing something about it. However, they are encountering a very frustrating glass ceiling. I use the term glass ceiling because we all know when we're being frustrated by life, when important parts of our life are unfulfilling, we can virtually see, taste, hear, feel, imagine vividly exactly what it is that we desire. Now, we may not allow ourselves to linger in those what are unfortunately still fantasies about our desired life, but we can see it. We know it's there. We know it's possible. We've been working hard for it. It's not going to hurt a soul for us to manifest it. In fact, it would benefit us and everyone around us to have better health, to have more wealth, to a better romantic relationship, to have more fulfilling family interactions, to have a more successful career. We know these things are not only possible, they're reasonable, and they would make everyone's life better. So why should we step back and pretend that we don't desire? Well, of course, you're touching on one of those reasons we do that, and that's because of the frustration of not being able to manifest important parts of our life the way we want them to.
Okay, so what would you say is the biggest misconception about manifestation?
The biggest misconception about manifestation, as I learned firsthand, is that we can't fool our subconscious. You know, Debbie, somewhere around age 7 to 10 years old, as human beings, we all started being able to discern the information that we were receiving. We started to develop the ability to be a little more choosy and to question things that we were learning, that things were being taught both implicitly and explicitly. Prior to that, however, we did not have that ability to question what we were being taught. And so for the first 7 to 10 years of our lives, the most important caregivers in our lives were giving us a veritable warehouse of beliefs. Beliefs about how life works, beliefs about who and what we are. And in fact, those very beliefs that we inherited, and I want to stress that term, inherited from caregivers who were doing their very best, but were only able to pass along to us what they themselves believed, no matter how badly they wanted to see us do better than them. We inherited those beliefs. So when we encounter parts of our lives that have become too unfulfilling, too frustrating for too long, it's very, very important. In fact, it's necessary to grow our beliefs into alignment with those desires. And that is ultimately what I write about and what I coach to help people do.
Well, you talk about in your book a process called learn, grow, and change. Is that what you're talking about here?
Absolutely. You know, Debbie, I had a long and rather distinguished career in education. I retired 2 years ago. But I spent 28 years and most of it working, the vast lion's share of it working at one of the highest achieving high schools in the United States, DuPont Manual High School in Louisville, Kentucky. If any of our listeners want to look that up, that is regularly listed among the top 20 high schools for academic achievement and many other things in the United States, according to U.S. News and World Report. So I know a lot about learning, about teaching, about growing. And I will tell you this, for those folks who are not in the realm of education, when teachers assess students, there are 2 types of assessments that teachers use. And one of them is called a summative assessment. A summative assessment, think of that as a final exam. You know, okay, Debbie, I'm your U.S. history teacher. We're done with chapter 3. Here's your test. However you do on that, that's your final grade. That assessment is to give a final grade. Unfortunately, we go through life assessing ourselves, the results of our efforts, and in fact, our life writ large, summatively, as a final exam, as if what I'm manifesting in this moment, as if who I'm manifesting in this moment, and as if how my life functions in this moment is some sort of final grade. However, the actual way to assess ourselves and our life, if we want to be intentional manifestors, if we want to learn, grow, and change, is to assess ourselves and our life formatively. And that type of assessment has one purpose. A formative assessment is an assessment designed to do one thing, and that is to shine a light upon what it is I still need to learn. And for the teacher to shine a light on what it is that still needs to be taught. Every part of our life, including our assessments of ourselves, should be done formatively. And that's at the heart of a learn, grow, change approach. Life teaches us how to manifest it differently if we follow the breadcrumbs back to our limiting beliefs. We can change those things.
We're going to talk about an interesting way that you have to change our beliefs. We're going to do that right after our break. We are talking all about manifestation with Greg Kuhn, and we'll be right back. Hi, it's Debbie. If you like what you're hearing on Dream Power Radio, I've got good news for you. There's more information, more insights, more ways for you to live your dream life on my YouTube channel, The Dream Power Experience. Check out insightful video interviews with some of the leading experts in self-growth and empowerment, plus a few videos where I share my own advice on how to break free from whatever's holding you back. So take a look at the Dream Power Experience on YouTube. Go to youtube.com/@thedreampowerexperience.
Welcome back to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman.
Yes, welcome back to Dream Power Radio. I'm your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman, and we're talking about manifestation with Greg Kuhn. Oh, Greg, right before the break, you were talking about the process of learn, grow, change. And a very large component to that is changing our emotions, how we feel about things. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I want to also circle back and just illustrate for folks how powerful beliefs are, how important beliefs are before I talk about feelings. I'm an avid runner. Running keeps me very physically fit. I'm age 56 and I'm in the best fitness and health of my life. However, I'm going to make a bold statement. It's not the running that makes me fit. The running allows me to believe that I am fit. And so when people call me the law of attraction science guy, right? I base everything that I do on paradigms that I glean from quantum physics. And one of the things that we know from science informs us about manifesting, and that is we can borrow from systems theory. We are systems. Part of our system involves feelings and feeling feedback. So let's address that. And first, though, let's start by saying, as systems, we humans can take advantage of a very important part of systems theory. And that is that when a system changes, it automatically changes its environment. So when we change by growing our beliefs into alignment with our desires, we automatically manifest new versions of reality. And of course, if we want to be intentional about that growth, we can be intentional about those new versions of reality we're manifesting. And you mentioned feelings, and I want to put a plug in here. Feelings are the breadcrumb trail that I referred to. Think of yourself, who and what you really are. You are energy, just like everything else here. Not philosophically, literally. You are energy. So we could call that light, love, God. It's definitely energy, though. It's definitely non-physical. So who and what we really are inside is the love or the light of love, the light of God. And I'm saying that in a non-religious vernacular. And limiting beliefs that we inherited without any say, limiting beliefs we inherited stand between the light of who and what we really are and the life we're manifesting outside of us. They stand between us, who we really are, and our life outside of us, and they cast shadows of pain, those limiting beliefs. Those shadows of pain, those are the painful parts of our lives. They are the shadows of limiting beliefs. And we always know when we have limiting beliefs because we will have painful feelings that clue us into it. The painful feelings that our life elicits, those are breadcrumb trails that are saying very simply, Debbie, Greg, you have entered this moment bringing with you beliefs that are not capable of manifesting versions of reality in line with your true desires for them right here and right now. So those feelings of pain that nobody likes, of course, they are elicited by these undesirable versions of reality. And those feelings, they clue us in. They're like a red light, a warning signal that says, Greg, if you would like to manifest better versions of reality in this part of your life, you're going to need to grow your beliefs a bit.
And so you're saying that if you change your emotions and get rid of those limiting beliefs, and that's how you will change what you really want then.
I would say, let me throw one caveat in there, and it has to do with our subconscious, which is where these beliefs I'm referring to are housed. It's where they are stored. The subconscious does not respond to feelings that are too far removed from how we really feel, from what's already in the subconscious. So we do need to be careful about employing quantum leaps of positivity as ways to grow our beliefs. So if I've been encountering frustrating and painful versions of reality that I've been manifesting, and which have been eliciting painful feelings as feedback, alerting me to the incapable or limiting beliefs that I'm bringing into the moment, if that's been occurring for any length of time, it's important for me to be aware that quantum leaps of positivity can and usually will make me feel better in the moment. They are not, however, capable of growing my beliefs. Ultimately, in my books, in my coaching, in other ways that I share information and teach, what I'm getting to is not only helping people reclaim and remember their own innate and beautifully powerful ability to get themselves back on track, but also to build the track that they were never on in the first place. And we can do that. We can grow our beliefs and create that track that we always wanted to be on. But for frustratingly too long, we haven't been able to see and understand.
So one of the tools that you talk about in your book is an emotional reference chart, where you actually have a list of attributes going from at the top, love and ecstasy, all the way down to depression and hopelessness. So you're saying that it would not work to try to go from depression to ecstasy in one fell swoop. It's not going to last, but you could go from depression to, the next level up on that chart and actually make that change, even though you might not see it making a big effect. It is having a big effect. Would that be correct?
It is correct, Ed. Let me add one thing, though. When people are, I call it reverse engineering their reality by coaching themselves up my emotional reference chart, they actually will see immediate changes in what they're manifesting in that part of their life that they're working it on. And that is because, as you so correctly identified, the growth between emotional perspectives on my emotional reference chart is intentionally slight. It's intentionally slight because that allows our subconscious to not only hear the new, slightly more improved feeling perspective, but also embrace it as authentic. And what happens when we do that, when we take those small steps, and we're talking about an area of our life that's important enough that we're willing to do something about it, and also that's been frustrating us for too long. So we're going to work this process on it. When we take those small incremental steps, and yes, we will manifest new versions of reality, even with one small incremental step. It's what we do is we assume a role very much like a caring adult that is helping a small child cross a crowded highway. Okay. The small child, of course, is our subconscious, as the small child is incredibly afraid of this crowded highway. But we, as the adults, know that as long as we obey the traffic rules and the lights and look both ways and, follow best safety practices, that we can cross this street. Even though the street's dangerous, we can cross it safely and get to the other side. No problem. But the small child doesn't know that. So by taking these small steps of emotional growth up my emotional reference chart, we are reaching our hand out to that small child, beckoning it to clasp our hand, to trust us, and then walk with us across the street. Now, bear in mind, the small child in that situation, they still don't quite understand why this is all safe. They can see the cars and see the street, and they can see and feel the danger, but we're providing a safe avenue for passage that works for the child. Well, the same thing happens with our subconscious when we work a incremental belief raising process like I teach.
And is that because as humans, we need to feel safe to progress?
That's great. I will say this. In the quantum universe, the unseen universe, there's no such thing as cause and effect. Nothing has to happen for something else to happen. And furthermore, in the quantum world, we can't always discern any sort of cause for things. So cause and effect is not a universal law. Cause and effect, however, we can probably use the term rule. Cause and effect rules the four-dimensional space-time that we're living in, what we call our universe. And so what that really means to us as manifestors, as intentional manifestors, is that there's actually nothing that we need to do to make something else happen. There's nothing that I need to do to manifest my life differently. There often is, however, or there often are things that I need to do for me to believe that I can manifest my life differently.
That belief is so critical. A word that you've mentioned, throughout this talk today is frustration. And that's one of the rungs on your emotional reference chart. So if someone wants to manifest something in an area in their life, would they usually start with frustration, or is it vary with people?
It's a beautiful question. What I teach, what I coach, it is very, very important to meet yourself where you are. So if someone is using the belief raising process that I teach in my books, or if I'm coaching someone through the belief raising process, what I'm going to do first, what they're going to do first, I should say, is to set themselves up by finding out exactly where they are. It's really important, Debbie, you know this. If you want to get someplace, it's really important to know where you're going. It's also really important to know where you're starting so you can track your progress, so that you can chart your direction. And so frustration is a fairly typical starting point for me. However, with certain things in my life, I start lower on the scale. It really just depends where you are. And the truth is, whenever you have gotten sick and tired of being sick and tired, whenever you've had enough and you said, you know what, this is not okay. I know more is possible here. And I refuse to believe that this is all that I'm capable of. When we reach that point, and we want to do something intentional to manifest an important part of our life differently, we're usually not going to be coming from a very positive place. Otherwise, we wouldn't be looking at that kind of change. So we don't need to worry or be wary of how low on the chart we may be starting, because that's just the beginning. Once we know where we're starting, whatever that emotional state is, we're then freed up to write and live our way into that next highest perspective, and then game on.
And the most important part is start and just not
Start.
believe that you're just stuck where you are, because there are ways to change that. So, Greg, how did you get involved and interested in manifestation in the first place?
Interesting story. My story starts with a desire for wealth. Back in the early 2000s, I decided that it was time for me and for my family to become wealthy or wealthier. So I went into business. I identified a partner. I chose a business that would be a win-win for both me and my customers. And I proceeded forward, taking very good, logical, professional steps to build it. And here's what happened. By around 2006, I was facing $1 million in debt, 15 foreclosures, bankruptcy, and my wife left us. And I was suddenly a single father of 3 young boys. Now, that is not what I intended to manifest when I launched this business. It turned out that while I was after this launch, well, my business partner was cheating me, unbeknownst to me. The economy and the housing market tanked. There were a lot of practical reasons for why this business failed. And by the way, the failure I'm speaking of, not only was my life about to be blown up, but you know what? Even worse than that, I was about to become that guy for the rest of my life. That guy who ruined his family and blew up his life and made everything horrible. Oh, I did not want to be that guy. And I did not want to see these things occur. Now, ultimately, at the end of the day, who or what was to blame for this spectacular failure? Who was the villain, right? Was it my business partner? Well, my business partner was cheating me, but no. My business partner wasn't to blame. Was it the economy? Well, the economy was evolved into the worst environment for me to be conducting business. But no, not the economy. That's not to blame either. My wife, who I could have used much more support from? No, my wife wasn't to blame. Was God to blame? No, absolutely not. And lastly, was I to blame? Well, I'm the one that did everything, right? But I'm still going to say, and I want to stress this, I wasn't to blame. And I want to say this to anybody listening who is currently being frustrated by an important part of their life. You are not to blame. Now, what do I mean by that? I was responsible for my actions. I was responsible for those outcomes. My inherited beliefs, however, were what manifested the results of my actions. As they continue to do, my inherited beliefs manifest my life. And no matter how good, no matter how productive, no matter how focused my actions are of those actions, they're still going to be manifest by the inherited beliefs I bring into this moment. So I manifested my way out of that by growing my beliefs. Now, I was in a position, Debbie, where I was facing a financial, personal, professional, emotional Niagara Falls. I was getting ready to go over in a barrel. I was given what you might call the gift of desperation, where I had nothing left to lose. So I went inside and I said, well, quantum physics tells us very, very clearly that everything in the world or everything in the universe is just a different perspective of the same thing. So if what I'm manifesting and experiencing sucks, how could that be a different perspective of the same thing? That means I'm the same thing as the part of my life that's sucking. So I went on a quest and I let nothing stand in the way of me growing my beliefs. And that's where I invented my belief raising process. And it's where I learned all of the things that I teach now to help people manifest because since that time, yes, 1 year later in 2007, I had no debt left. There were never any foreclosures, and I never declared bankruptcy. And moving forward and employing what I learned during that time period, I have now manifested my soulmate. I've manifested phenomenal physical fitness and health. I've manifested enough wealth in my life that we are cared for, and I'm actually able to help others. I've manifested our dream home. I've manifested wonderful, fulfilling relationships with my sons. I am just on fire and hungry to teach other people to do the same things with these most important parts of their lives.
Oh, that is wonderful. The wonderful way to end this. Greg, one final question. How can people find out more about you and your work?
The easiest thing to do, and thank you for asking, Debbie, Manifest the Big Calm is my website. And right now, and I've got some big things that I'm working on right now. However, that is absolutely the best place where you can find me, my books, my newsletter, my coaching, my Facebook group. You can get connected to everything and start adding an incredibly powerful set of tools to your manifesting tool belt.
Well, Greg, thank you so much for being on Dream Power Radio today.
Thank you so much for having me, Debbie.
We've been speaking all about manifesting what you want with Greg Kuhn. I hope you've enjoyed today's program. If so, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Until next time, this is Debbie Spector-Weissman saying, sweet dreams, everybody.
You've been listening to Dream Power Radio with your host, Debbie Spector-Weissman. For more information on Debbie or to sign up for her newsletter, go to dreampowerradio.com. This has been Dream Power Radio.